So hello, everyone, and welcome to the Online Research Skills for Teens program. I'm Laura, and my colleague Nona is on the screen with me, and we are Toronto Public Library's high school outreach librarians. So some of you may be familiar with us as we visited your schools, and we'll be running the session today. So before we get started, we have just a bit to go over. As this is one of our first online sessions and no one is really used to it, so we want to make sure you're familiar with the interface we're using, Crowdcast. So firstly, please note that this session hopefully will be recorded, and you can communicate with us in the chat box on your screen as you have been doing, which is fantastic, and also by asking a question through the Ask a Question section, which is located at the bottom of your screen. And we will talk more about asking and answering questions in just a second. I would like to acknowledge that Toronto Public Library is situated on Indigenous land and Dish with One Spoon territory. This is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Toronto Public Library gratefully acknowledges these Indigenous nations for their guardianship of this land. As a reminder, our online programs and the chat room follow our online and social media policy statement and our rules of conduct. So at the top of the chat, if you scroll up, these documents are linked there. So you can read them if you are interested, and that's just guiding how we moderate the chat conversations today. But in summary, just be respectful of yourself and others in the chat box. And please note that we are in the pilot phase of our live and online program, so bear with us if we do have any technical difficulties. If your screen becomes frozen at any time, simply close your browser and re-enter the event. And we have two of our colleagues present, Alex and Teresa. They've already introduced themselves in the chat, and they are here to be answering the questions kind of behind the scenes. So while Nona and I are talking or walking you through some screenshots or whatever we're doing in the program, they will be there monitoring the Ask a Question section and the chat questions to help you really directly. So you can ask any questions directly in the chat or in the Ask a Question section. And you can also vote up other questions you see. So if someone already asked the question you were interested in, just vote it up so we know it's super important to tackle. And so we encourage you to ask questions at any time through those two areas, but Nona and I have built in specific times throughout the presentation to answer those questions. So you may not get an answer immediately, but we're going to try our best. And if you do not get to your questions during the session at all, we will be posting a TPL Teens email into the chat area at the end of the session. So you can reach out directly to us with any research-related questions we don't get to today through that TPL Teens email we'll be posting at the end of the session. So our program today is called Online Research Skills for Teens, and Nona and I will be discussing what databases are, when to use them, and how to access Toronto Public Library databases. So you will need an active Toronto Public Library card to access these databases. So keep that in mind. And I will be walking you through one of our more popular databases in the second half of the program, so you can see exactly what it looks like and how to search in it. So at this point, I'm going to kind of disappear from the screen and hide my camera and pass it over to my colleague Nona to take the lead for the next part.
Okay, thank you so much, Laura. I'm super happy to be here. This is our second time offering this session. First session went really well. Just to let you guys know, if you're not familiar with what Laura and I do regularly before the closures, we would be joining you guys in your schools. I personally definitely miss that one-on-one interaction, that face-to-face interaction, being able to see you guys. So again, because I'm not able to really see who's here with me today, we have some poll questions at the bottom. So if you haven't already, check them out for those friends who joined us a little bit later after we started in the session. Just take some time, answer those questions. As I'm looking at some of your responses, I can see your school or your teacher really encouraged a lot of you to join us today. So I'm glad that you guys were able to. I can see we have quite a few senior students here, couple grade 9s. Welcome, everyone. This session will be very helpful for all of you. And then I can see we have a really important question here that says, do you have specific assignment or essay in mind for this session? And it looks like there's a lot of curious individuals, but then there's also people who have a topic picked or they're working on a project at the moment. So that's really good. And a lot of you have active TPL library cards. So that's good. So you're actually able to get access to these databases. Awesome. So how I'm going to start this session, and again, if you haven't, just continue to bring in the answers. My colleagues are all monitoring the polls. If you have any questions, please do submit it in the Ask a Question, as Laura already said. So I'm going to start my session by really talking about research strategies, right? So what is research? Research is essentially posing a question and looking for answers. And in order for us to start looking for those answers, we need to know what is our research question? What is our topic? What are those keywords that my teachers are constantly telling me to figure out in my research and my research question? And that's a very important element for today's presentation. I'm not going to get super deep into figuring out your research question, and I can see some of you are still working on those, and like some of you responded, you guys have that figured out. But it's really important to have that before you really delve into finding what databases to use. So like I said, I'm not really going to go over that, but I do want to share a resource with you guys today that I think will be helpful. And I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. I'm going to minimize myself, but I'm still here and you will hear me. And the reason why I want to share my screen is I want to show you guys a part of our website that has a ton of useful content relating to your research question, but also supplementary content for homework help. So let me just move myself away. All right, perfect. So this is what our website, Toronto Public Library website, looks like. If you want to know how to get to it, type in Toronto Public Library on Google or just type in tpl.ca and it's going to take you here. And as you can see on the right upper hand corner, there's a teen tab, the teens tab. If you guys click on it, it takes you to the teen TPL website. A lot of the content here is relevant for anybody who is, you know, anywhere from the age of 13 to like mid-20s, I would say. You can probably find really good content that's relevant to you. On this section of the website, we have a homework help tab. And if you click on it, there's a ton of awesome resources that we're going to definitely talk about because you can see there's databases. But I just want everybody to really scroll all the way down to the blog portion. Click on the homework help posts. Now, what these are content that's been created by, you can see Laura's name popping up here quite a bit, but a few of our other colleagues have contributed to some really awesome blog posts. For example, referencing citations, avoiding plagiarism. The one that I want to bring your attention to is the top one, Unlearn Research Skills for High School Student, Tips and Strategies. So as I was talking about the research question earlier, in this section, we teach you and show you how you're able to think of your research question and then how you can eliminate it to really come up with those keywords that you can use in your database research. So, and there's an example there that you guys can follow just to kind of show you what that looks like. But there's a lot of good information there. And also at the very bottom, there's some videos that will add into and reiterate some of the concepts that we're going to be talking about today. So definitely check that out and definitely check out some of the other blogs that we have there. So if you guys have any questions about that, please share them in the chat or in Ask a Question tab. And I'll get back to you in a bit. I'll let you know when I'll be taking some questions. But again, my colleagues are monitoring that. So I'm going to come back. Just give me 1 second here. All right, hello. So now we're going to have a conversation about what are databases and what does TPL offer in terms of the type of databases that are appropriate for students. So essentially, databases are searchable collection of data, and data can be in the form of articles and documents, stuff that you guys might be familiar with, but there's also databases out there that collect information. For example, like your dentist has a database of their patients. Your local grocery store has a database of everything they have in store. One of the prime examples of a database is one of our favorite ones, right? Google. You can think of Google as a database of websites, lots of websites. There's a lot of data there. Now, speaking of Google, why I wanted to kind of bring that up is because when it comes to research, I think a lot of us just want to opt out and just Google it and try to find an answer there, which is great. And I have nothing against Google. I've worked with Google quite a bit throughout my education and career. But today I want to kind of start a conversation about what it is that distinguishes databases from what Google has to offer. So I was really trying to be as concise and clear in my communication there. So I came up with this little chart that I want to share with you guys. It's a comparison chart that breaks down different components of Google Scholar, and databases specific to TPL in this case, but it can generally apply to any database system. So I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. Again, I'm going to minimize myself and bring up that screen. So just give me 1 second here. And in this chart, oops, let me take it into presenter mode. All right, so I'm just going to minimize myself, like I said. See you guys in a bit. And so before I get into really discussing what are some of the benefits and of each, I guess, I do want to point out that you as the researcher are empowered to ultimately choose where you want to find what you need. So this is really to kind of just share and inform and let you know, whatever you decide to choose, what kind of content you're getting from it, okay? So I, based on this chart, would vote databases over Google any day. And I might be biased because I am a librarian, but this is because in this time where, there's limitless access to information, including fake news, which I'm sure you guys are very familiar with at this point, it is important to use dependable sources and quality content that you won't simply just be able to find on the open web. So at libraries, what we do is we invest in ebooks, databases, video streaming, and other relevant digital resources. And these digital databases, they are catered and they are specific for students, for your age group. So it's appropriate for that. They are also current and they are curated and they are meant to be relevant, which is why we are talking about them today. The biggest benefit of databases is the efficiency. So if you learn how to use them correctly, which is something that Laura will show you later on in this presentation, your projects can actually get done sooner and your life will become a lot easier. So in our assignments, our teachers are asking us to use primary sources, reference books and peer-reviewed articles, and I'm sure you guys have heard of these. The content that you find in research databases is actually based on those requirements to support your schoolwork and your school projects. Now, when experts are adding content to databases, they are selecting this information based on audience appropriateness, qualification of the author, reputation of the publisher, richness and relevance of information, and clarity and accuracy of information. So there's people that are really making sure that the content that is being added to these databases are passing and checking every single one of these requirements. So when it comes to databases then, there's a lot more specific content than Google. And in turn, you are given usable and accurate results to consider. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering about Google Scholar. And because there are no peer review procedure in place, just like Google, then you have to evaluate the resources yourself, which is very timely. Now, if you guys remember the article that I not the article, sorry, the blog that I shared with you guys earlier, we actually share tips at the bottom of that, and I'll quickly show you what that looks like. I think I have to come back 1 second here. I'm going to show you what that evaluation process looks like. If you do happen to find an article on Google Scholar. So at the bottom of this blog right here again, so this is the same one that I was showing you guys earlier. We share, so once we kind of talk about research questions, then we discuss ways that you guys can evaluate information that you find through Google Scholar or Google. And we talk about a test called the CRAP test. So there's more information on that here. And again, at the bottom here, we do have some videos that dive further into it. So definitely check those out. But I kind of just wanted to have this discussion to really try to show you guys the difference between the type of information you can find on databases versus the type of information that you guys can find through a Google search. General rule, I would say, just to end off this note, is that I would use Google for quick answers. So I would probably use it to kind of help me pick my topic, help me pick what it is that I want to talk about. And then when it comes to actually finding relevant and quality content, I would consult a database. So I'm just going to take some time here. We're going to have a 5-minute or so break. If there are any questions, please post them if there was something that wasn't quite clear. And to get everyone thinking, the first 2 questions that you see in the Ask a Question portion are really kind of following from the conversation that we just had. So the first one is, why do teachers tell us to avoid Wikipedia as a source of research? And the second one is, when is it actually okay to use Google for research? And I kind of answered that earlier. And I can see some of you are actually responding to that, so that is awesome. So
yeah, there's some great responses.
For sure. I'm just going to quickly look at those, but if there are any other questions coming in, if you guys are wondering if you need help with your topic, or if there's something that I missed there that wasn't quite clear, you want me to repeat, please feel free to reach out now.
And in the next section, Nona's going to show exactly the databases Toronto Public Library has for us. So if that's kind of your question, that'll be answered in the next section. Where can you find Toronto Public Library databases? What makes sense for which subject maybe, and how to access them is going to be the next thing we cover. So any questions you have up until this point or responses to the questions, we'd love to hear. I really love all the ideas around when to use Google and why. We're definitely not here to tell you to not use Google. We love Google. We use it all the time. We're just here to talk about where else you can go to find good quality information, especially when that becomes a requirement for some of your assignments in grade 11 and 12, and definitely in college and university if any of you are heading in that path.
Absolutely. And there's a great question that came in. Which databases might be best to use for social science research and why? I will respond to that in my next segment. I'm going to show a list of all of our databases and which ones are. You'll definitely see there's quite a few that can apply to social sciences research to begin with.
And the example that the database will go into, I'm going to pretend I'm doing a social science assignment, so we'll be able to follow through with that near the end of the session as well.
Absolutely.
We ready to move on, do you think?
I think so. I just saw there was a few people that just joined in.
Hi.
We have 47 people with us here today. Can you please show the chart about?
I want to see the chart again.
Yeah. Sure.
I will delete my face then. So you can show it. There we go.
There you go. So I'll just quickly minimize myself for a couple minutes before I move on. If there's anything in the chart that you want me to clarify also. All
Ooh,
right.
does TPL recommend a bibliographic generator? That's a great question. And maybe Alex and Teresa can point you to some of the free online ones that are there. Generally, they're all very similar and or actually created by the same company, just with different names. I tend to like Cite This For Me is the one that I tend to use as examples when I'm doing class presentations. But one of our blog posts, I think the one on avoiding plagiarism or the one on citations recommends quite a few in it. So maybe Alex and Teresa can answer that question, linking to that blog post on citation. Sorry, Nona, continue now with your next section. I'll actually post the blog post.
Okay, sounds good. And there's a question, what's the cost for TPL access? It does depend per database, I would say, because I'm going to show you guys a list, and there's quite a few. And the ones I'll be sharing with you are specific to student resources, but it can be quite costly. We're talking, I would say, definitely in the thousands of dollars. But I mean, when it comes to access for you as a user, it's free because a TPL library card is a free membership, obviously, as long as you live, work in Toronto, or are a student in Toronto. Okay. All right, awesome. So I'm just going to move on now. We're a little bit tight on time. So now what I want to show you guys is the databases. Again, I'm going to minimize my screen, go back to our website just to demo where you can access these amazing databases that I have been talking about this whole time. All right, so I'll see you guys shortly. All right, so again, this was where the blogs were. I'm just going to go back to our, actually, I'll just go back to the TPL website in case anybody missed. We do have a special section for teens on the main website, which is torontopubliclibrary.ca or tpl.ca. And if you click on the teens tab, it will take you to our teen site. And under homework help, where I earlier demoed some of our homework help blogs. So we scrolled past it, but we also have access to our databases and online research. So the three that you see here are our highest and most popular databases that are used quite often. Canada in Context will be the one that Laura will talk about later on. But if you click on more databases, you'll actually realize that there's quite an extensive list. And I can only imagine how overwhelming this looks for somebody who's looking at it for the first time. For us, we've been working with it for so long. So I'm just going to point out a few of the ones that are very specific to those what we call research databases. So, you know, the ones that have the articles, the peer-reviewed journals, and the ones that your teachers tell you to use. The one thing I would point out is you do need an active library card in order to access these databases. They can all on this list be accessed from home. And as you notice, these are our students' resources specifically. On the left-hand side, you'll see that we have some databases and research tools by topic. At the very bottom, it says student resources. That's the page we're on. But if you are, let's say, doing research on Canada, there's some other suggestions there. There's some business and career and health. And there's other categorizations they have used for my students, for my grade 9s, 10s, 11s, and 12. Student resources are the ones that are most relevant to you. Now, like I said, you do need a library card and they can be accessed from home, okay? Now, I'm sure you won't be too impressed to hear this, but we don't expect people to be able to just remember which databases offer what, because it is a lot of information, which is why my colleagues have actually provided an extensive description for each databases. So Academic OneFile, conveniently enough, the first one on the list, is one that has those peer-reviewed journals. And if you click on it, so you can access it with a library card. Again, you put in your library card number and your PIN and whatnot, and Laura will show you that. But what I want to focus on is a description. So here it says that there are full text articles from scholarly, trade, general interest magazines and journals. So these are on current events, general sciences, technology, social sciences. So there was a question about that, and arts and humanities. And you'll realize that there's an extensive coverage there. And when it comes to these types of databases, what I call them research databases, I'm just going to point out the ones that we have here under student resources. So there's Academic OneFile, which focuses on the subject areas where I just read about. There's also Canada in Context, which is, this is more information about anything Canadian related. So it is kind of more of a special database, but I still want to point it out because there's a lot of good content there. Another one, when it comes to scholarly or full text journals, is Directory of Open Access Journals. So these are, there's quite a bit of coverage there. I would say all subjects are there. So, the sciences and the social sciences, and then there's different languages as well. Another one that I would point out is the JSTOR. This is one of my personal favorites. So there's archives of articles from scholarly journals. So there's arts here, sciences, social sciences, and humanities. So if you guys are doing any research there, there's a ton of primary sources here and book chapters. So JSTOR is a really good one. And then we also have Sage Journals, which again gives access to full text articles, which are peer reviewed, and their fields that it's covering are humanities, social sciences. And the coverage is fairly recent. So it's from 1999 and onwards. So if, your teachers are looking for recent coverages, like that's a good one to consult. Sage Journals is also very good. And those are the I would say, and another one I wanted to point out, sorry that I went past it, and this is more specialized, the Canadian Business and Current Affairs. So there's a lot of business and general interest articles here, but you can find peer reviewed if your topic does fall under, the business or the general interest topic. And this is why it's really important to really figure out what your research question is, just so you can kind of see which one of these databases might have something for you. Where to start, I would say just really first identify which databases or what kind of information you guys are looking for. And then it's pretty normal to have 3 or 4 databases that you can look within just to kind of find more information. So those are some of our research databases. And just to reiterate again, we had Academic OneFile, we had Canada in Context, we had CBCA, we had Directory of Online Access Journals, we have our JSTOR, and lastly, the Sage Journals. And the other ones that I'm kind of like brushing over doesn't mean that they're not useful. It's just the content that's being offered there. It's a little bit more specialized. Again, just if you have 5 to 10 minutes after this, just go over it. If you have any questions, reach out to us with the email that we share with you at the end of this presentation. Or again, simply just go over the description just to kind of familiarize yourself with what is available there. I'll point out a couple, for example, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what is out there. Like we have Gale Literature, for example, where there's literary topics here. So there's, if you guys are like looking at an author and their work, so there's biographical information, reviews and criticism. We have Globe and Mail historical newspaper. So any articles from 1844 to 2016 of the Globe and Mail can be found here. And then we have like the Shakespeare collection, right? So anything Shakespeare, whether it's the text by Shakespeare or stuff that's written about it, it's all available through this database. Okay, so I'm just going to end it there. Our next session, Laura will demo one of these databases so you guys know what it looks like. But for now, if you guys have any questions, please ask. I think there's some questions that might have come in. If there's something that you want me to go a little bit deeper into.
So to summarize for the question about social sciences, if you're in a senior grade of high school, grade 11 or 12, or heading off into university or college, Academic OneFile, JSTOR, or Sage Journals all has great social science coverage on topics, on every kind of topic imaginable related to social science. So those are good ones to start with. If you're in grade 9 or 10, or even grade 11 and 12, and it's your first time exploring a database, something like Canada in Context, which we'll go into in just a few minutes together and have a look at the kind of coverage it has for social science, is also a really good one, a great one to start with. Yeah. Any other questions coming through? I know Alex and Teresa are doing a great job answering some of the ones in the Ask a Question function. And remember to check out those polls. And there should be another poll being added shortly to just check how you're doing and how you're responding to what's going on. But feel free to always put something in the chat if you want us to go over something like you did with the chart. You want to see the chart again. It's great for us to know where to focus. So we're just going to wait one more minute or so to see if any more questions come in.
There's one question that came in, I think. Yeah. Sorry. Oh,
no, it's okay.
It disappeared. And there's another one that came in.
Ooh, so the one about citing your sources when you use an online database, I will answer because that's a great one. And it'll become really clear when we're in the database how the citation works. So that one will be answered in just a sec.
Okay. Ashley is asking, are there any writing workshops and tutor workshops, like being a tutor, what to do and things like that? Okay, so this Thursday, there's a BrainFuse homework help session that some of our colleagues are running where they'll be going over study tips and also how to use BrainFuse, which is our online homework resource, which can help you with specific questions you have for assignments or with a writing lab. So you may be interested to check out that program this Thursday at 4 p.m. And the link is posted way up at the top of the chat and will be posted again. In terms of writing workshops, we'd love to host writing workshops, usually in person at our branches. But as we transition to online programming, we're in the process of kind of hearing from teens about the type of programming they'd like to see. So if you are interested in a writing workshop, where you kind of hear ideas from each other and give each other constructive criticism, that's great for us to know because we can pass it on to all of our staff so we're aware of what teens are interested in. So I know we've been posting some poetry and writing starters on our Instagram stories. So if you do have Instagram, I encourage you to follow us at tpl.teens because there's some story starters and poetry starters that they've been posting to kind of get people writing. And then you can share your written work with TPL Teens to be posted later on. So I encourage you to start there as a starting point, and we'll pass on the interest in a writing program. Okay, I'm going to move ahead with biology. Okay, biology. The first one that pops to head for a database for biology, Academic OneFile is the most broad and does contain a lot of science and health and biology specifically. But Alex and Teresa can give you more detail on that. I'm going to move on to my demoing of going into a database together. Sorry, did you want to say something, Nona? And Sage Journals has
science as well. So Sage Journals and Academic OneFile are the best for health and biology related resources. I'm going to minimize myself for sure. I'm going to share my screen. And so I'm going to share my screen in where Nona left off in that homework help section of the TPL website. Okay, so I'm going to toggle my video. So I'm still here. And I'm going to share my screen to the homework help section. And then we're going to walk into the database together, and we're going to choose Canada in context. Okay, so from the homework help section of the teens section, the 3 big databases are listed here. So I'm going to click into Canada in context. And what it tells me right here is that this is full text articles, videos, audio files, vetted websites, etc., on a broad range of topics, people, places, and events. And it says front and center that it's good for students, which is fantastic. This database is one of my favorites to show students for a number of reasons. One, it has Canada in the title, which is a little bit of a giveaway that it tries to give us Canadian points of view or Canadian content wherever possible. And that's great. It will also pull from international and US resources, but it will give us Canadian content wherever possible, which is something we're sometimes asked for by teachers. The other reason I like to show this database is it's really great for all high school levels. So someone in grade 9 or 10 can find great information here, but it also does have scholarly articles that are more appropriate for grade 11s and 12s all in one place. So to access it, you simply click the red Access Online button. Put in your library card number. So the library card number is the digits written on the back of your card, 14 digits in total, and then your PIN. And so your PIN is the last 4 numbers of the telephone with you register for your library card with. So once you have your PIN, you can change it through the Your Account function up here to something else you might remember, but the default PIN is the last 4 numbers of your phone number. So once you do that, you simply select Sign In. A continue button will appear, and then the database will load. And so this database, as you can see, is basically a search bar and not much else. It's asking us, just like Google does, to put in our keywords, our search terms, the topic we're exploring and studying. So if you have a topic already picked out or some keywords already decided on, this is the place where you would type them right here in the search bar. But I wanted to show you this database because it does organize the topics for you in a unique way. So if we scroll a little bit down, you can see topics of interest, which are seasonal topics, as we can see from Victoria Day, to topics that students are actively searching for, so popular topics, as well as things that are in the news. So we can see COVID-19 is here as well. So it just highlights a few things that might be of interest to you. And more importantly, further down the screen, it lists topics by their subject. And so what this serves to do is show us the variety of topics you can find in this database. Everything from information about famous people under biography, to economics and business resources, if that's what you're studying, to history resources or government resources. So for grade 10 students in civics or Canadian history, these are great places to come. And then science and health resources, world cultures and religions, and most importantly, what we're going to focus on today, the social issues section. So there's 148 topics that this database has identified that a lot of students look at in high school and come here and search for. So I'm going to click on social issues, and it's going to bring me those 100 plus topics in one place. And so you can see it's everything from adoption to environmentalism to renewable energy. And as you scroll down, you see more and more topics are there. So these are topics that students often investigate in social science classes in grade 11 and 12, for example, or even in English classes. If you're asked to identify an issue or a theme in a novel that spoke to you and then write about it, some of these things might come up as well. So for English classes, social science classes, any humanities, philosophy, those type of courses, this might be a great place to come. Now, I do want to mention, if your topic wasn't listed here, it doesn't mean that the database doesn't have information. In that case, you would just put it in the search bar, right? It's just not as popular necessarily a topic as some of the other ones. So the topic I'm going to select is immigration, and I'm going to pretend I'm doing an essay on Canadian immigration, some aspect of Canadian immigration. And so once I click on the immigration topic heading, it brings me to this topic page. And the first thing I see is an overview article. So I like to consider this article very typical to a Wikipedia type article. You can see that this article is written from the Canadian perspective, so the Canadian history of immigration, just to give us some background and general overview of the topic. And then below that, you will see the rest of the resources are organized by their type. So there's 516 reference resources on the topic of immigration. And so that means potentially encyclopedia articles, chapters from books, etc. There's also magazine and newspaper articles on the topic. And importantly, for those in senior grades, academic journal articles. So things from more scholarly sources. And then if I keep going, it organizes them in kind of neat boxes for me. So everything from images, videos, and podcasts. Podcasts are usually found under audio. So that's usually podcasts or radio broadcasts. Video clips are sometimes news broadcasts or different videos that news organizations have put together. And you can just see all the results are there for you. So once you decide kind of what type of result you're interested in, you can click right into that section. So I'm going to go into academic journal articles on this topic of immigration. So it shows me that there's 698 that this database has flagged as being on the topic of immigration. Okay, and then this is what our search results screen looks like. Right here, kind of in the center to the left, is where the articles are. And you can see this is a bilingual a database. There's some French resources. And then if I scroll down, that's where all the articles are. Similar to how we see in Google, the title of the article is hyperlinked, and there's a little bit of information about the author and source there for me to see, okay? On this side, however, is how I can filter my results. So 698 is quite a bit, and this gives me the ability to filter it. So I'm gonna go and right away suggest I want Canadian content. I'm focusing on Canadian immigration. So by selecting Canadian content, clicking into that box, it's going to take my 696 results and bring them down to 221. Okay. It also allows me to limit by publication date. So if I wanted only things from the last 10 years or so, I have the ability to put that in. It also gives me subject headings associated with it. So if I was focusing on, for example, youth and immigration or racism or migrant policies or anything like that, it might be helpful at this time to plug in one of those search headings. I also have the ability under document type to decide what kind of document I want. I'm going to select article because I want a pretty meaty article, right? A lot to say. So I'm going to select article, and it's going to take my 221 results down to 130. Okay, so every time I filter, I'm trying to narrow it down more to what I need. And as I just scroll through, you can see there's some medical articles coming up to do with immigration, work, borders and immigration, perspectives, a lot of French results coming up. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add another search term. So I'm interested in immigration and jobs. So I'm going to explore in my essay potentially how immigration and the job market is for immigrants and that shapes immigrant culture or something like that. So if I do that, it brings it down to 50 results, okay, for me that I can explore. Okay, so I'm going to click into the first result here, the precarious nature of work in the context of Canadian immigration. And I like this one because it tells me front and center it's Canadian. It's pretty recent. It's from 2019, and it's from a journal called the Canadian Ethnic Studies Journal. And I can find out more information about it there if I wanted to. So I'm just going to click into it, and this is where I'll see my big search result. Okay. The result's going to come up. Just a second, it's loading. And this is what the article looks like. So the bulk of the screen is the article. You can read it like this, or I find it much easier to click either download right here or download right here, and then it loads it as a PDF, which is easier to read and easier to print out if you are interested. I also have the opportunity to send it to my Google Drive or email it to myself if I think this article will be useful in my research. And it gives me other articles on the topic, related articles that I can explore, which is great, right? It's noticed kind of what I'm searching for. And so it's giving me some articles that it suggests I can explore further. Okay, so if I decided that this article was helpful and useful for my assignment, how do I cite it? Which was one of the questions asked. I simply click on this cite button, and every database, 99% of databases have this built in because we understand that students are doing research and you need to provide that citation, right, to your teachers. So if you click cite, it gives us right away the MLA or APA citation for this article that I could export to Google Drive or one of those free tools, citation generators, or I could simply copy and paste it into my reference list if I'm using APA or my works cited list if I'm using MLA. Okay. Now, if I had from the beginning of this not scrolled down and gone into browse topics, if I had simply put in immigration up here, you can see the search assist comes on and it's directing me to, in bold, the topic page of immigration. So if I click here, you're going to see that looks familiar. I get to the exact same place as if I had browsed by topic. But if I choose the word immigration without the bold, it's just going to take me into a search result list, similar to what you would see as it loads slowly, similar to what you would see for a topic that doesn't have a topic page. Is it going to do it? Maybe not. It's going to take me back to this topic page, and then I can just go in to the results. So it's going to always, I'm always going to find a way to the topic page if there is a topic page for the subject I'm interested in. Okay. So that's how a database looks and feels. In many ways, it's similar to Google. In many ways, it's quite different. This database, like I said, is a good entry point for students because it is very focused on Canadian curriculum and what students are looking for in social science classes, etc., history classes, English classes, and it definitely organizes the information in a really manageable way, depending if you want reference or news articles, or if you are ready for those academic or scholarly journal articles. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the video now and see how many questions came in. Is there anything else we can answer for you in our final time together? Sorry, my camera. There we go.
Laura, there was a question that said, please review advanced search, please. And this was sent to us.
Oh, in the database. Okay, let me pull that back up. So I'm just going to take away my video again. And I'll click on the advanced search. So as you saw from when I was walking through.
Sorry, you're not sharing your screen yet.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just in the process of doing it.
Got it.
So when you get to the Canada in Context main page, I'll just click there. There's a place to type in your search or to go into advanced search. I elected to just go through the topic list or type in immigration. And why I did that was once I do that, and I'm in the search result page, I'll just show you. And I've clicked on, for example, magazine articles on the topic. A lot of the advanced search functions that they would have given me if I had clicked on advanced search are here in the filter your results section. So I often find for students who have never done an advanced search before, putting the limitations or filtering through advanced search options after they're in the search results can be helpful. However, if you just click advanced search, when you enter the database, it looks like this. And so you can see all of these were the things that I limited by: Canadian content, publication date, document type. All those things would be things that come up in the filter column. The only thing that's different is the ability to do multiple keywords. So I could do immigration in my first keyword, and then I could add in my second keyword job, which I did anyways in the search within function. So either way, I'm doing the same advanced search strategy. It's just in a different way. I can do it all beforehand, do immigration and job, and ask for Canadian content. and peer-reviewed journals and full text and article up here. But sometimes this is a little hard to figure out exactly what you want from these boxes, which is why I like the filter. But here's my search, and it's given me the results here. Okay, I think I did a more narrow search for sure than before. Okay, it also will point me back to that immigration topic page if I have gone too small in my searching. So the advanced search looks like this, where you can add multiple keywords and then limit by these options. So either way, if you go in through advanced search or by searching, both of those options are going to be present for you. Okay, so I'm coming back and I'm going to have a look at if any questions came in, and Nona as well can come back. Oh, sorry, my video is taking a while. There we go.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was perfect. I think the one thing I just want to quickly address is regarding library cards. Yes, you do need an active library card that's not expired in order to access our databases. If you think your card has expired, we do have an online renewal option. My colleagues will send you the link for that, and there is an FAQ page for that as well. But in terms of getting a library card, unfortunately, at the time of the closures, we're unable to provide any physically new. But if it has expired, you might be able to renew it online.
And I'm just putting into the chat where you can follow up for us. So there is an email address, teens@tpl.ca. So if you had a research question that we didn't get to, feel free to add it in through the email to us. Sorry, yes. I don't know if it's posting it for me. I'm going to try.
I can type it as well. Teens.
Yeah, it's just teens@tpl.ca. It's not letting me add it. Unfortunately, the chat's not working for me. Any other questions that we didn't get to? I know Alex and Teresa, do you think their databases will be available to temporary card users at some point in the future? So TPL has said on our main page that they are working at some sort of online registration. However, it is still very much a work in progress. So if and when that comes into being, it will be updated front and center on our main page, probably in the frequently asked questions related to the current closure. So as of right now, we don't have online registration for a card that would grant you access to the databases, but we are working on it. So we'll see if it comes in the future. And we are, Martin, recording this, hopefully, so it will be hopefully live still in the link, at least for a week or so after today. We're hopeful that we will have access to it after today, so you can rewatch it at your convenience.
And it can be accessed through the same link, right?
It should be through that same program link, yeah.
Yeah. I think we have one more.
Coming in. Can you filter other languages out? That's a great question. In Canada, in context, I don't remember if there is a function in the advanced search to filter out. There's definitely to filter for Canadian and by content type, but there is no language filter in Canadian context. A lot of the other databases do have a filter for English only. So it's just a function of some databases and not others.
Laura, we had a really good question.
Okay.
But why is it that information you find on databases cannot be found on Google?
Okay, so some of it can be, especially in Google Scholar, but
Yes.
a lot of what is in databases is behind the paywall, as we say. So the people that are writing and researching and publishing in these academic journals, like the one we were just in Canada in Context, I forget the name of it, the Canadian Ethnic Studies Journal, work for universities or professional organizations and agencies. And so how it's structured is they still charge for access to their journals. They don't make them freely available in Google through websites. In some cases, we are moving towards a more open access future potentially, and some journal articles are open access and some are still behind the paywall. And so that's why with databases, you need to pay to have access to a database or use an institutional login like a university or college or a public library like Toronto Public Library. So it's just the structure of academic publishing is such that a lot is still behind the paywall at this point and provided through databases where
and
you
also
have access
keep in
to.
mind, these are experts that are working on curating these content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these are people that are being paid for good quality work. Whereas in the World Wide Web, anyone can really post anything. So that's why you really need to have that evaluation process to figure out who's the author, what's their credibility, what's the intention of the conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the post, rather.
Yeah.
So I've actually have the email up on the website. Sorry.
Yes,
up
we
on,
can see it.
Next to us, yeah. And you guys, it would be great if you just maybe address it to me and Laura, or say something like online research skills program or workshop, just so that it can get flagged and sent to us.
Yes.
But definitely, please do reach out if you have any more questions. We're both very open and we want to be as helpful as possible during this time for you guys.